AEW Fight Forever, the video game that felt like we were waiting for, finally released in June of 2023, and the reception of the game has been a mixed bag. Some have enjoyed a return to the old style of wrestling video games that's filled with crazy weapons and moments, and others have pointed out that the game was released in a state that felt unfinished and lacking content. No matter what opinion you have, it's fair to say that interest in AEW Fight Forever is at an all-time low. How did we get here? Well, let's look at the hype and disappointment of AEW Fight Forever. Be sure to subscribe for more wrestling video game content. The story of AEW Fight Forever begins all the way back in late 2018. Around this time, 2K would release WWE 2K19, and it did well. Fan opinions were strong and review scores were very solid. It felt like WWE 2K19 was a return to form for the series, but there was a shocking twist to this release. It would be the final WWE 2K game developed by Yuke's, who had been developing WWE games for nearly 20 years at this point. At the same time as the release of WWE 2K19, rumors of a new wrestling company launching would be all over the internet. And just a few months later, All Elite Wrestling would be officially announced, with their first pay-per-view show, Double or Nothing, being announced to take place in May of 2019. And May 2019 is a significant period in early AEW Fight Forever's story, as not only would this be the first AEW show, it would be the first time we hear news about Yuke's creating a new wrestling video game IP to rival WWE 2K. In this VideoGamesChronicle.com interview with Yuke's, Senior Vice President and Producer Hiromi Furuta confirmed there was no indication that Yuke's wouldn't be developing WWE 2K20. It was mentioned by Hiromi that this new wrestling video game IP in development was done for internal competition within Yuke's to make the WWE games better, and would even confirm that Yuke's will continue to work with 2K and have a great relationship with them. But just a few weeks later, Kenny Omega, just before the Double or Nothing pay-per-view, would state that he wanted to bring back the Akai engine, and this had fans going crazy. A modern Akai wrestling game with the AEW roster was something everyone wanted to see at the time. Later in the year, it would be confirmed that 2K would no longer be working with Yuke's, and all WWE 2K games would be solely developed by Visual Concepts. This led to the disaster that we now all know as WWE 2K20, which was released in a horrific state and was never truly fixed. At this time in September 2020, WWE 2K's popularity was at all-time lows, with many hoping that AEW's future video game would bring wrestling video games back into its previous glory. 2 months later, AEW would announce at the perfect time that it had a special announcement about future AEW games. During this presentation, it would be announced that AEW would begin working with Yuke's for their first ever console video game. However, some early red flags began to appear already, as fans who tuned into the event would mention how the trailer was revealed that the art style and graphics looked pretty disappointing, though many still felt optimistic that as long as the gameplay was like the Akai games, then it'll be a must-play wrestling video game. For the next 7 months, nothing else would be shown. There would be snippets of information like how AEW games wouldn't feature a GM mode, which was a pretty big letdown at the time, as many fans were hoping that AEW would bring back the much wanted mode. But other than that, there would be nothing until June 2021, when we'd get our first look at Darby Allin, followed by a first look at Jungle Boy in September 2021. After these first looks, there was another huge gap with nothing being shown for another 8 months. Within this time gap, WWE 2K had released 2K22, and the series got back to where it needed to be, with the players and critics mostly being happy with the game. This definitely dropped the interest in AEW's video game, as many fans were looking for something during 2K's 2.5-year break, and once those fans had WWE 2K22 with such a big break with no information for AEW's game, that interest just wasn't the same. As the months went on, AEW's video game would finally have a name: AEW Fight Forever. THQ Nordic would be announced as the publisher, and a demo for Fight Forever would be at Gamescom 2022. It finally felt that the game was close to a release, but this would be the beginning of one of AEW Fight Forever's biggest problems: the constant delays. Originally, Fight Forever was hyped to be released in fall of 2022, a classic date for wrestling video game fans, as that was when normally WWE 2K games would come out. However, as the days went on and fall 2022 arrived, there was no release date announcement. The next date that was revealed was February 2023, but once again the date was passed with no announcement. Things would go silent again, and to the surprise of everyone, WWE 2K released 2K23 before AEW Fight Forever would release. But then AEW Fight Forever would finally get a release date announcement in May of 2023, with the release date being announced for June 29th, 2023. And when we finally got to that date, it just didn't feel like it was worth the near 3-year wait. Now, there were some bright spots to Fight Forever, like the hardcore and fun spots that can be done. Road to Elite has some fun stories, and well, it's something different to what WWE 2K offers. However, the negatives far outweigh the positives, like how there was too much of a focus on minigames that no one really plays, a lack of creation modes, a lack of match types, and the gameplay not living up to the expectations of what an Akai's spiritual successor should have been. It feels that the development of AEW Fight Forever was hugely focused in all the wrong areas, as budget and time was wasted on stuff that was simply unnecessary. Like really, did anyone play the minigames for more than once or twice? Imagine if the effort and budget from those minigames were put into other modes that would have given AEW Fight Forever more longevity, like a universe style mode, more creation options, and a community creations mode like WWE 2K's. But another point that needs to be made is that with so much of AEW Fight Forever's promotion being It's Like No Mercy, they really messed up by not having certain features in Fight Forever that you could do in No Mercy. There's no backstage areas, no cage matches, and no pay-per-view show mode that were all in No Mercy. Fight Forever felt seriously rushed, even though the game had been in development for over 3 years by the time of the release. The disappointment didn't take long to be felt by players, as some had expressed their faults with the game online, and some players even went further by requesting refunds for their purchase of AEW Fight Forever. This wasn't helped by the fact that the game isn't receiving enough support for the issues it has. For example, matches are easy to exploit with certain AEW wrestlers and custom characters that it has pretty much made online unplayable. And with the support lacking, many players have just started to give up on the game. The Steam count numbers for Fight Forever peaked at 1,428 players on launch, but numbers plummeted to lows of only 10 players just over a month after release, which is incredibly shocking for a game that had so much hype at one point. The numbers have since recovered to around 100 players on average, as Stadium Stampede mode just released, but even then that mode has its issues like collision detection being way off, and there'd already been exploits to win easy. It feels like a temporary game before the eventual fall again. However, could AEW Fight Forever eventually have a huge comeback? It would take some serious updates to do that. Now we're talking new match types, new modes, new creation parts, fixes and balancing to gameplay, just to even have a chance of recovering some of the fans who felt like they've been let down by the quality of the game after being promised something similar to Akai games. It's going to be a long road, possibly something that they may not ever be able to recover from, but only time will tell. What are your thoughts on AEW Fight Forever? Do you think that AEW Fight Forever can ever make a big comeback? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling video game content.